I'm not going to do cliff jumping. They're absolutely bonkers. We've been talking about the fact it's the 25th anniversary of the WTTC, and we're going to celebrate that now with two of this industry's all-time greats. One has written this book, actually a remarkably well-reviewed book too, Safari. The other could have a whole library written about what he's done and what he's contributed. Ladies and gentlemen, Geoffrey Kent and Bill Marriott.
Well, it's wonderful to have you here, Bill. You're an icon in the industry. You've been my mentor for almost all my life, and I suddenly realized we've actually both been in the travel industry really all of our lives. And before we go on to a little video we're going to be showing, I just want to tell a small anecdote about Bill, actually, that I was a past chairman of WTTC. I'd done 5 years, and Bill came to give a very nice farewell talk, and he reminded us, or the people in the room, that he did a big safari with us once, Bill, and he said to me, you know, I hate to ask you this, but I'd love to meet Mr. Abercrombie one day. You know, he's obviously the senior guy here. And I said, well, you know, there is not a Mr. Abercrombie. I made it up when I was 20 years old. He said, really? Great. So you don't have to split the profits. So, yeah. So that's how Bill thinks, natural entrepreneur. So why don't we see the video?
Very humble beginnings of that hole in the wall where my father's standing in front with his arms crossed. In no way were they thinking about anything back then that we have become today. I started out working in a hot shop restaurant in Salt Lake City in the kitchen, and I loved the pace. I loved the fact that things got busy and you were scrambling and you were working and you were taking care of the customers, and I thought that was the most fun in the world.
Oh, he looked very handsome in his Navy uniform. So we didn't have a long courtship, but it just worked. Well, the beginning of the business, nobody knew anything about the hotel business.
When we opened our first hotel at the 14th Street Bridge in Washington, which we called Twin Bridges, I went to my dad one day and I said, why don't you let me try and run this hotel? He said, well, you don't know anything about the hotel business. I said, I know, but neither does anybody else around here. I think putting people first means listen to their concerns, giving people an audience, giving them an opportunity. Well, every time we open a hotel in a community, we hire people that are not trained. We say we hire friendly and train technical.
You know, you can start as a bellman or, you know, washing dishes and grow to managing a hotel. I mean, the company really takes pride in that.
When you look at the fact that 50% of our general managers came out of the hourly ranks, and the average general manager's been around for 25 years, that says something about the enduring culture of the core value of the company.
Bill, why don't you tell us... Bill, why don't you just tell us a few of the steps from that one hotel to almost where we are today?
I was looking out the window of my room before I came down on Stemmons Freeway, and I told my wife, Donna, I said, 1960, I stood in the middle of that freeway before it was paved. It had just been graded. And we had a location right on the corner of down where the Sheraton Suites is for a hotel. My father was standing there, and I said, I think we really ought to build a hotel in that spot. It's going to be a great location for us. It'll be our third hotel. And again, he told me, he says, hell no, what do you know about the hotel business? I said, well, not much, but I'm willing to learn. And that was number 3 hotel. And it's been a great journey. It's been a lot of fun. The best part about it, I think, is providing opportunities for other people. As Deborah Lee said, we really hire a lot of people and we promote them and train them. I said in the film that 50% of our general managers have come through the hourly ranks and have been with us for more than 25 years. And I think that's the kind of a company we've strived to build through these years. We started with very humble beginnings, as you saw in the film, and today we are a big company.
Well, it's really incredible what you've built, Bill. You've always put a huge amount of emphasis on the culture and your employees, and you always have a phrase, which I've heard you bring out, which is, what do you think? So what's behind that phrase of, what do you think?
Well, I came home from my first year in the Navy. I'd been commissioned as an ensign. I came home for Christmas time, and my dad said, well, we're going down to our farm, and President Eisenhower is going to meet us down there. This was 1954. And he's going to go hunting, quail hunting. And so we got him down there, and it was really bitter cold. It was December. It was 20 degrees outside. The wind was blowing. We were standing around by the fire trying to decide whether or not Ike was going to go out and shoot quail, which we'd put all over the farm, so we had plenty of birds to shoot. And the question became one, should we stand by the fire and stay warm, or should we go out and freeze to death and try and shoot some quail? And Eisenhower turned around to me, and I was the lowliest officer in the Navy at that point, and he said to me, what do you think we should do, Bill? And I said, it's cold out there, let's stay in by the fire. And we did. But I thought about that a lot, and you know, he was the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the United States and the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces in Europe when we finished the war. And I thought, he's used that expression, what do you think, many, many times. That's how he dealt with all the egos, you know, of the Montgomery, who were one of your Brits, and Patton, one of ours, and pulled them all together, de Gaulle and Churchill and all of them, to win the war. And I'm sure he did it by including people, asking those magical words, what do you think? And I got to thinking about that some more, and I said to myself, you know, if you think you're the smartest guy in the room, and you don't have to ask somebody, what do you think? Pretty soon you'll be the only guy in the room, because nobody will be on your team because they want to participate. Sometimes they are pretty vocal about what they have to say, but a lot of the time it's just, I've been heard, the boss heard what I had to say, and he made a little different decision, but I was included. And that comes back to those magic words, what do you think?
That's very, very good. Bill, you joined Marriott in 1956 and you became CEO in 1972. And so in all that time, and 6 years in the industry, what do you think are the biggest talents and features of a good leader? What should they really have?
Well, I think a good leader is a good listener. I think a good leader leaves his ego at the door. We had President Bush last night talk to a few of us, and he said humility is important. I think it's very important because it's the humility that invites people into the game, that you're approachable, that people would talk to you and consider you. And I think a good leader in our business follows what we've always believed in our company, which is take good care of your employees, they'll take good care of the customer, and the customer will come back. And so taking care of employees is really important. We just spent some time at our Camelback Inn Hotel, Donna and I, and it's a beautiful property, lots of flowers, lots of shrubs, lots of green grass, beautiful little casitas around the place. I probably talked to 20 or 30 customers. They say, we love this hotel because we love the people. It wasn't the flowers, it wasn't the pretty grass, it wasn't the mountains, it was just the beautiful people who, and then they said they cared about me. They remembered me, I'd been here before, they knew what I liked to eat, and they said this place is the best because of the people.
And in all this time and building this business, you've obviously taken some risks, right? What would be your biggest risk or your second biggest risk, and how did you overcome it, and what was the success?
Well, I've taken a lot of risks, and probably the biggest single risk for me back in 1982 was to build the New York Marriott Marquis Hotel, 2,000 rooms in Times Square. Times Square was pretty seedy back then, and nobody was building in Times Square. Had turned their back on Times Square. I had a friend who had a 200-room hotel in Times Square, and he was running 90% occupancy. The rest of the city New York was running 70%. I said, why? He said, because of the theater. He said, we fill up every weekend with theater guests, and then during the week we fill up with business people. So we rolled the dice, built a 2,000-room hotel in Times Square. It worked out fine, but it took 3 or 4 years to build up the occupancy, and today it's done very, very, very well. It was a huge risk at the time.
I know you're very, very passionate, and you're very, very inquisitive. I remember I was in Prague in 1989, and just looking around, sort of feeling out whether I should be here, and out you came out of an elevator with about 5 people behind you. And I said to my executive, we got to be here. Bill Marriott's here. So what makes you still to this day think and always looking ahead and being ahead of everybody? How do you keep ahead?
Well, you know, I think you have to take the word success is never final. And you have to think that you're going to do that. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about Starwood because that seems to be on everybody's mind. At least it's been on me and Arnie Sorensen's mind, I'll tell you that. Anyway, it took a lot of courage on the part of our team to recommend that we make this big bet. But that comes down to success is never final. If you got to move the ball ahead, Sisyphus, I guess, was always trying to move it up the hill and it was always rolling back down on top of him. But we want to keep moving ahead and moving the ball ahead, and that's why we're doing this Starwood thing.
Chris Wallace interviewed you, and you're talking about the millennials. And I think you really said this is going to be a very important part of your business, and I think it's now 60% of your business. So tell us about that and how you went down that route ahead of everybody else.
Well, I'm not sure we're ahead of everybody else, but we're trying. We're developing a hotel brand called Moxie, and that's a lower-priced hotel for the millennials. I don't think I'd stay there. I don't think you'd stay there. But there's no closet. They got pegs on the wall. They call them a peg wall. And you hang your clothes up on the pegs, but the millennials don't unpack their suitcases, so they won't use those pegs anyway. I tell them when I see them around our corporate offices, they look like they haven't unpacked their bags. But they want a great bathroom, they want a great bed, they don't think they need a closet, they don't think they need a desk, and we made the mistake of designing some rooms and not putting desks in, and the baby boomers and the people our age said, hey, we need a desk. But they want a huge TV, 52 inches is fine, and I think one of our competitors is putting a 65-inch TV in a 300 square foot room. But that's a little over the top, but that's what they want. And they want a great bathroom, and they're really fine with hardwood floors. They don't seem to like carpet. They think the hardwood floors are cleaner. And they don't want any color. My wife and I have been used to color all our lives in our room, and now they're gray and blue and black. But that seems to be what's turning them on, so away we go.
There you are. Bill, China and Southeast Asia, you've been really successful there. What made you get in there so fast, and what do you think of the future of the area? And tell us more about that and your development.
Well, the future of the area, I think, is tremendous. We have a couple hundred hotels over there. Starwood has more than we do. And, you know, somebody said, well, how come you're not in Hong Kong? This was back in the early 80s. And I said, because we're not in San Francisco. I said, let's get to San Francisco before we go to Asia, to Hong Kong. But an opportunity presented itself in Shanghai. AIG had a hotel there that they weren't happy with the management of, and they called and said, you want to put $10 billion into China? I said, no. They said, well, if you want to get a hotel in China, take this Shangri-La hotel, convert it to a Marriott. And I said, we'll put a Ritz-Carlton name on it. We just acquired Ritz-Carlton, and we did. And we put in $10 million. Everybody gulped. I think one of our senior officers was so upset about it, he resigned. But we went ahead and did it, and I think it was a really good move, and we've been really, really excited about what we're doing in China. We have over 21 hotels now in Shanghai, and we're growing about opening a hotel every week or so in China, so we're excited about it.
That's amazing. You know, we both have, I remember you and I were discussing it once, and you said to me, we both have our name on the door. And you have married, I have this made-up Abercrombie and Kent, but I have a made-up first bit. But the married, what has that meant to you in your whole life, having your name on the door? Has it enthused you, made you be perfect? What difference?
It's scary because it makes you realize that everybody's looking at what you do, and you have a certain obligation to your guests, to your employees, to your investors, to do better. My father, I used to get in arguments with my father, of course, as most sons do. And I came to the conclusion that he couldn't fire me, and he came to the conclusion that I wouldn't quit. So it was the old Russian standoff, and we got along okay after that understanding. But having your name over the door provides, I think, adds a certain dimension to the energy you put into the business and the responsibility you feel for the business.
That's true. What is the biggest challenge, do you think, facing your hotel industry right now?
Well, I think global terrorism. I think we've talked about that at this meeting. It's something beyond our control. It's something that we'll do very good to work with government to do the best we can to identify the bad guys and do something to stop this, but it's going to be a serious concern and is a serious concern. The leak of the Zika virus in Latin America is a concern. So it's the stuff beyond our control that we can't do anything about that worries us.
You wrote a book in 1997, The Spirit to Serve. What did you teach? What did it teach you when you wrote it? Because obviously I've just written a book, but what did it teach you when you were writing it? How long did it take you? And what do you think of it having actually done it?
Well, it was a good opportunity to look back and see what we've done and to focus on the importance of people in the business. You know, that's the whole key to it all, is motivating people, developing a team, working with that team to achieve good results. In the Starwood deal, we've had investment bankers tell us that they've worked with a lot of companies on deals, but they've never worked with a management team that got along as well as our team did. They were all pitching and catching with each other and working together to achieve the goal. And no contention and no problem with anybody else, just everybody working together. And I think that's what we've tried to do.
And then, of course, I have the most very important thing that I've been dying to ask you all afternoon. And it's all about this recent, is it the whole acquisition? We know what we're talking about. Can you brief us a little bit about it, if you can?
Well, yeah, I can. It's been a roller coaster the last couple of weeks. I said this morning to the group that we really didn't know who we were dealing with, and I don't think we still do, and maybe never will. But it's been a great adventure for us. I don't think it's a huge risk for us. We're actually increasing the size of our company considerably. We'll have, when we complete the acquisition, we'll have about 5,500 hotels and 1,100,000 rooms, and we'll be in over 100 countries. And the opportunity that presents us with a bigger platform, with more distribution, the opportunity to merge the Starwood Preferred Guests and the Marriott Rewards members. We have 55 million Marriott Rewards members. Starwood has 25 or so million SPG members. Put these two programs together. I think from a customer standpoint, they'll recognize that they can get these points, and when they go to dial up and look for a reservation around the world, they'll find that every time they look for a room in a city, we'll be there with some of our products. We'll have 30 brands, and we should be in every major city in the world with multiple brands, and even other little tiny communities will have something. So wherever you want to go, dial up Marriott.com.
Wonderful. What do you think your father would say? What would you be telling him now?
I'd be afraid to tell him.
So, would you say anything? What would you?
Yeah, that's it. I don't know if I'd tell him. I think he'd have to read about it in the paper. And then I'd go hide.
Bill, you look like you're going on about 44, right? And what keeps your enthusiasm and passion up? Because I've known you, gosh, for so long, but you are always the same. You're enthusiastic. You want to win. You want to create the very, very best. You always, here you are, Starwood's deal. So what keeps you and drives you and motivates you for all of us around the world?
Well, there's a couple of things. One, as I mentioned, is providing opportunities for people. I think that's the thing that drives me more than anything else, is to meet people who have started out in the hourly ranks and now have executive positions or supervisory positions. And we'll have, with Starwood, over 500,000 employees, and the opportunity to provide them with opportunities to grow and a stable work environment and a company that really cares about them is very important. I've always said that one of the key words in our business is more satisfied customers, more satisfied associates, more opportunity for our people, better return, more return for our shareholders and our owners. And the answer is more, and I think with Starwood we got more.
Well, thank you very much,
Thanks,
Bill.
Geoffrey.
We have a little award to give you. And
here comes the team.
So we've asked a few of our associates to come and help me with this because of your focus on all of them. But WTTC has asked us, because of your amazing leadership of WTTC and of the industry, that we recognize you, and I want this whole room to help me thank you for your leadership. But with me, we've got Mark Wolfer, who is the GM of the hotel, Ludi Hall, who opened this hotel 33 years ago and now still continues to serve as an accountant, and Scott Garrett, who's been with Marriott for 36 years, who's the Director of Finance. And they're just three people who happen to be here, but like their 350,000 colleagues around the world, I know all of them have the same level of gratitude that I do for your leadership. One of the first trips I took with Mr. Marriott overseas was to Beijing, right after we acquired the Renaissance Hotel Group in 1998. And we were touring hotels, as he does in every market. And as he does in every market, he walks through our hotels, but not just the presidential suite or the ballroom, but the kitchens. And those kitchens, I remember like the seventh or eighth hotel we toured that day in Beijing. We were walking through the kitchen. The chicken carcasses were hanging from hooks, getting ready to be served. And Mr. Marriott was so intent on shaking every hand of every single associate in that hotel, many of whom had probably never shaken the hand of a Guaylo before. And here he showed up and basically said, welcome, glad to have you in the hotel. I know around the world it's been about making opportunities for people and the lives that you've touched. You have touched mine, you have touched these three associates' lives, and you've touched the industry around the world. So please, all of you, join me in thanking Mr. Marriott for his leadership.
Thank you. Thank you, Geoffrey. Thanks very much. Thank you, Ella, very much. Thank you.